Yeah? And I think it might have been...
What does it take to get banned from America's biggest talk shows? Apparently stealing through Meryl Streep's purse, setting a chair on fire, walking off stage in a rage, or starting a feud so bitter it lasted decades. From Hollywood legends to comedy icons, these celebrities didn't just make headlines, they got themselves blacklisted. Some were kicked out for outrageous behavior, others for shocking betrayals, and a few for reasons so ridiculous, you'll wonder if they were part of a sitcom. Here are 16 celebrities who managed to do the one thing stars are never supposed to do: get permanently banned from late-night television. Number 1. Bobcat Goldthwait. Most guests who appear on The Tonight Show hope to leave with a few laughs, maybe a standing ovation, and some good publicity. Bobcat Goldthwait, however, left with something far more memorable: a criminal charge. In 1994, the comedian appeared on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, and what started as a normal interview quickly turned into one of the most chaotic moments in late-night television history. Without warning, Goldthwait pulled out lighter fluid, and a lighter he had secretly brought onto the set. Then, in a move nobody saw coming, he set his own chair on fire. Suddenly, the interview looked less like a talk show and more like an emergency drill. Flames shot up as Jay Leno and fellow guest Lauren Hutton scrambled to throw cups of water on the burning chair. Amazingly, the fire was put out before anyone was hurt, but the shock on everyone's face said it all. Even by the unpredictable standards of live television, this was completely insane. The stunt immediately earned Goldthwait a ban from the show. But that wasn't the end of his troubles. Authorities charged him with arson, making him one of the only Tonight Show guests to leave the studio and end up facing criminal consequences. He was later fined thousands of dollars, part of which went toward replacing the chair he had turned into a campfire. Looking back, it's hard not to laugh at the absurdity of it all. Plenty of celebrities have bombed during interviews, but Bobcat Goldthwait may be the only one who literally tried to set the furniture on fire. Number 2. Harmony Korine. Hollywood has produced plenty of eccentric celebrities, but what Harmony Korine allegedly did backstage at a late-night show sounds almost too strange to be true. Known for his unconventional films and unpredictable personality, Korine had already made several memorable appearances on David Letterman's show. Everything seemed fine until one bizarre moment changed everything. Years later, Letterman finally shared the story while interviewing James Franco. According to the legendary host, he went backstage to greet Meryl Streep before the show. But when he entered her dressing room, she wasn't there. Instead, he says he found Harmony Korine standing inside, allegedly going through the Oscar-winning actress's purse. Not talking to staff, not waiting for someone, going through her purse. Even by Hollywood standards, that's an incredibly awkward situation. Letterman recalled immediately telling Korine to put everything back and leave. Just like that, the filmmaker's relationship with the show was over. There was no public confrontation, no dramatic scandal splashed across headlines, just one unforgettable backstage encounter that reportedly earned him a permanent ban. And if you think getting caught near Meryl Streep's purse is a strange way to end a talk show career, wait until you hear about the celebrity who literally set a chair on fire. Number 3. Gary Busey. Some celebrity interviews are awkward. Some are chaotic. And then there's Gary Busey, who managed to turn a simple appearance on The Howard Stern Show into something that felt more like a wildlife documentary than a radio interview. Back in 2001, Busey arrived at Stern's studio with his usual unpredictable energy. At first, everything seemed normal, or at least as normal as things can be when Gary Busey walks into a room. But before long, the actor began ignoring every concept of personal space. He suddenly grabbed co-host Robin Quivers in a bear hug, then turned his attention to Howard Stern himself. What followed was pure mayhem, as Busey reportedly chased Stern around the studio and even tried to wrestle him to the ground. The entire situation left everyone stunned. Was it a joke? Was it performance art? Was Gary Busey simply being Gary Busey? Nobody seemed to know. Later, the actor offered an explanation that only made the story even stranger. According to Busey, the behavior wasn't really him, it was one of his many alternate personalities. He claimed to have multiple personality parts, and blamed the incident on one called Pesky, describing him as the excitable boy. Unsurprisingly, Stern wasn't eager to relive the experience. Busey spent years away from the show before eventually returning for a radio-only appearance. But even today, this remains one of the most bizarre guest appearances in talk show history. Because let's be honest, when your interview ends with a host running for cover, you've probably crossed a line. Number 4, Dax Shepard. Most celebrities worry about saying the wrong thing during a late-night interview. Dax Shepard had a much bigger problem. He couldn't even remember what the interview was supposed to be about. Long before becoming one of Hollywood's most relatable stars, Shepard was struggling with serious substance abuse, and one appearance on Conan O'Brien's show became the perfect example of how badly things had spiraled. Years later, Shepard revealed the unbelievable story. The night before his scheduled appearance on Late Night with Conan O'Brien, he had been drinking so heavily that he blacked out completely. In fact, he later admitted that he woke up in a hotel room with security shaking him awake just 20 minutes before he was supposed to be on television. Even worse, he had already completed the show's pre-interview while blackout drunk, meaning he had no memory of the stories he had promised to tell on air. When the cameras started rolling, disaster followed. Conan kept trying to set him up for funny stories they had discussed beforehand, but Shepard had absolutely no idea what the host was talking about. You can imagine the confusion, Conan throwing perfect passes, while Shepard didn't even know what game they were playing. As if that wasn't enough, he also managed to break a coffee table during the ordeal. The appearance became so notorious that he was reportedly banned from returning until he got sober. Fortunately, Shepard eventually turned his life around, and years later, Conan welcomed him back with no hard feelings. Still, few guests have ever shown up so unprepared that they practically needed a map to their own interview. Think Dax Shepard's story was crazy? Comment 4 if you're ready for the next celebrity who took things to an even stranger level. Number 5, Hugh Grant. You would think that dictators, controversial politicians, or outrageous celebrities would top the list of worst talk show guests ever. But according to Jon Stewart, the most unpleasant guest he ever interviewed wasn't a world leader or a scandal magnate. It was Hugh Grant. Back in 2009, Grant appeared on The Daily Show to promote his movie Did You Hear About the Morgans? On paper, it should have been an easy interview. Grant was one of Hollywood's biggest stars, known for his charm, wit, and classic British humor. But behind the scenes, things reportedly went very differently. Years later, when Stephen Colbert asked Stewart to name his least favorite guest ever, Stewart didn't hesitate. His answer came instantly: Hugh Grant. According to Stewart, Grant spent much of his visit complaining to the production staff and acting as if he had somewhere better to be. Then came the moment that really annoyed the host. During the interview, Stewart played a promotional clip that had been provided by Grant's own team. Instead of appreciating it, Grant reportedly criticized the clip selection on air. Stewart was stunned. In his mind, if anyone had a problem with the footage, it should have been the people who sent it in the first place. The experience left such a bad impression that Stewart publicly declared he would never invite Grant back to the show. To his credit, Grant later acknowledged the criticism and admitted he had been difficult. Still, it's a reminder that sometimes you don't need to set furniture on fire or chase a host around a studio to get banned. Sometimes being the most annoying person in the room is enough. Number 6. Jay Leno and Conan O'Brien. For years, Conan O'Brien was considered the future of NBC. To keep him from leaving for another network, NBC promised him the job everyone wanted, hosting The Tonight Show after Jay Leno retired. Sounds simple enough, right? Not exactly. When the time finally came in 2009, Leno stepped down and Conan took over. But NBC quickly realized they didn't want to lose Leno either. So instead of letting him ride off into the sunset, the network gave him a brand new primetime show that aired right before Conan's Tonight Show. The plan was supposed to make everyone happy. Instead, it became a disaster. Ratings struggled. NBC panicked, and executives proposed moving Leno back into late night, pushing Conan's show to an even later time slot. Conan saw the move as a betrayal and refused to go along with it. After months of headlines, controversy, and public backlash, he accepted a payout and walked away. Leno ultimately reclaimed The Tonight Show, but many viewers blamed him for refusing to step aside. Years later, Conan insisted he had moved on, but when asked if he would ever invite Leno onto his own show, his answer was short and brutal no. In the world of late-night television, some rivalries fade. This one became legendary. Number 7. Howard Stern. Some celebrities go on talk shows to promote a movie. Howard Stern seemed to show up with a completely different mission: take over the entire program. When the controversial radio host appeared on The Tonight Show in 1995, nobody expected it would become one of the most infamous late-night appearances of the decade. Stern walked onto the stage accompanied by 2 bikini-clad women and immediately turned the interview into chaos. Within minutes, he was encouraging outrageous behavior, interrupting conversations, and talking over nearly everyone on stage. Even legendary film critics Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert struggled to get a word in. What was supposed to be Jay Leno's show suddenly felt like The Howard Stern Show, and Leno looked increasingly frustrated as the segment spiraled out of control. Behind-the-scenes reports claimed Leno was furious and nearly walked off the set. The appearance became another chapter in the long-running feud between the 2 media personalities, who spent years trading insults in public. Looking back, Stern certainly succeeded in grabbing attention. But there's a fine line between being an unforgettable guest and completely hijacking the show. On that night, Howard Stern didn't just cross the line, he bulldozed right through it. Number 8. Kathy Griffin. If there were an Olympic event for getting banned from talk shows, Kathy Griffin might have a trophy case full of gold medals. Throughout her career, the comedian built a reputation for saying exactly what was on her mind, no matter how controversial, awkward, or career-threatening it might be. While that honesty earned her plenty of fans, it also earned her a remarkable collection of talk show bans. Over the years, Griffin managed to wear out her welcome on multiple programs. She was reportedly banned from The Late Show for excessive swearing, from Today for repeatedly making fun of the hosts, and from The View after telling a joke involving Howard Stern and Barbara Walters that many considered wildly inappropriate. Wherever Griffin went, there always seemed to be a chance that producers would end the day reaching for the panic button. But perhaps her most famous fallout involved Ellen DeGeneres. Griffin publicly claimed that Ellen had a mean streak behind the scenes and wasn't supportive of other women in the industry. The comments didn't exactly strengthen their relationship. Before long, Griffin found herself unwelcome on the Ellen DeGeneres show as well. Looking back, most celebrities get banned from one show and consider it a disaster. Kathy Griffin somehow turned it into a recurring career achievement. Whether you see her as fearless or simply impossible to control, one thing is certain: when Kathy Griffin walked into a studio, producers never knew if they were booking a guest or inviting a future headache. What about you? Do you love Kathy Griffin's fearless honesty, or do you think she simply goes too far? Let me know in the comments below. Number 9. Donald Trump. Most talk show bans happen after a celebrity says something outrageous on air. Donald Trump's ban was a little different. In this case, the ban came before he even showed up, and it was delivered with a healthy dose of late-night revenge. Back in 2016, Trump was in the middle of a heated presidential campaign and making headlines almost daily. Around that time, he revoked press credentials from the Washington Post after becoming unhappy with the newspaper's coverage. The move sparked criticism across the media world, including from late-night host Seth Meyers, who wasn't exactly known for keeping his opinions to himself. Rather than staying quiet, Meyers decided to fire back in the most talk show host way possible. During his monologue, he jokingly announced that Donald Trump was officially banned from Late Night with Seth Meyers. The audience loved it, but there was one small detail that made the whole thing even funnier. Trump was probably never planning to come on the show anyway. It was essentially a ban for someone who wasn't standing at the door. Still, the moment perfectly captured the ongoing war of words between politicians and late-night television. In the end, no dramatic confrontation ever happened, but Meyers managed to turn a political controversy into one of the most memorable talk show bans on the list. Sometimes the funniest ban is the one that never actually needed to happen. Number 10. Oprah Winfrey. When two of the biggest names in television stop speaking to each other for more than a decade, you'd expect some massive scandal, a screaming match, a public betrayal, maybe even a shocking secret. But the strange feud between Oprah Winfrey and David Letterman was so mysterious that for years, neither side seemed completely sure why it even existed. The drama began after Oprah appeared on Letterman's show in 1989. Instead of enjoying the experience, she later described it as deeply uncomfortable. According to Oprah, parts of the audience were shouting at her, the atmosphere felt hostile, and she felt as though Letterman was encouraging the chaos rather than calming it down. Whatever happened that night left a lasting impression because Oprah simply stopped appearing on the show. Not for a year, not for 5 years, for 16 years. As the years passed, rumors about the feud grew larger than the feud itself. Some blamed jokes Letterman had made, while others pointed to awkward encounters behind the scenes. Letterman even joked that Oprah disliked him because he once tried to make her pay for his lunch. Eventually, Oprah returned to the show in 2005, and years later, the two finally discussed what had happened. Looking back, the whole situation feels almost funny. In an industry filled with explosive celebrity feuds, one of television's longest-running rivalries may have started because someone simply had a really bad day at work. Number 11. Vivica A. Fox. Vivica A. Fox walked onto Jimmy Kimmel Live hoping for exactly that. Instead, the interview turned into such an awkward train wreck that it ended with an empty chair and a host who never wanted her back. The tension started almost immediately. As Jimmy Kimmel introduced Fox, he ran through her long list of acting credits before slipping in a joke about her friend Star Jones. Normally, a celebrity guest might laugh it off or change the subject. Fox did neither. She made it clear she didn't appreciate the joke, especially when it involved someone she considered a close friend. Kimmel responded with a sarcastic remark of his own, and suddenly what was supposed to be a friendly interview started feeling more like a verbal boxing match. As the conversation continued, neither side backed down. Kimmel kept bringing up Star Jones while Fox became increasingly frustrated. The atmosphere grew so uncomfortable that Fox eventually stood up and walked off the set, leaving Kimmel sitting there alone. For a few moments, the host was literally interviewing an empty chair. Years later, when Kimmel was asked which guest he would never invite back, he named Vivica A. Fox without hesitation. In Hollywood, bad interviews happen all the time. But it takes a truly memorable one to end, with the guest gone, the host annoyed, and a chair becoming the most cooperative participant in the conversation. Number 12. Piers Morgan and Madonna. Most celebrity feuds involve two people constantly attacking each other. But the bizarre rivalry between Piers Morgan and Madonna often felt like a one-person battle. For years, Morgan publicly criticized the Queen of Pop whenever he had the chance, calling her boring, annoying, and even claiming she was too vegan for television. The comments became so frequent that many people wondered if Morgan spent more time talking about Madonna than Madonna spent thinking about him. Eventually, Morgan took things a step further by announcing that Madonna was officially banned from appearing on his television show. The funny part, Madonna never seemed interested in appearing there anyway. It was a little like banning someone from your house when they're already on vacation in another country. Morgan insisted he had plenty of reasons for disliking her, citing various celebrity encounters and disagreements that stretched back years. Then came the twist that made the whole story even more awkward. Despite publicly declaring Madonna banned, reports surfaced showing that Morgan's own team had actually invited her to appear on his program. When the contradiction became public, Morgan quickly tried to explain that the invitation and the ban involved different shows. Whether people bought that explanation is debatable. Meanwhile, Madonna barely acknowledged the drama at all. In the end, that's what made this feud so memorable. While Morgan kept firing shots, Madonna seemed perfectly content letting him argue with himself. Number 13. Bill Hicks. Plenty of comedians have offended people. Very few have had an entire performance erased before viewers ever got the chance to see it. That's exactly what happened to Bill Hicks, one of the most fearless and controversial stand-up comics of his generation. By 1993, Hicks was already a familiar face on David Letterman's shows and had built a reputation for tackling subjects most comedians avoided. When he appeared on Letterman's new CBS program, everything seemed to go perfectly. The audience laughed, the jokes landed, and even Letterman reportedly enjoyed the performance. But after the cameras stopped rolling, network executives made a shocking decision. They felt parts of Hicks's routine were too controversial for television, so the segment was pulled before it could air. Just like that, millions of viewers never got to see the performance. What made the story even more heartbreaking was what happened next. Unknown to most fans, Hicks had been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and passed away the following year at just 32 years old. For years, the lost performance became almost mythical among comedy fans. Then in 2009, David Letterman invited Hicks's mother onto the show and finally aired the never-before-seen set along with a public apology. In the end, the performance CBS tried to hide became one of the most talked-about moments in comedy history. Sometimes being silenced only makes people listen even more. Number 14. Jackie Mason. Sometimes a celebrity gets banned for saying the wrong thing. Jackie Mason got banned for what may have been the most expensive misunderstanding in television history, a misunderstanding involving a hand gesture. Back in 1964, Mason was one of the hottest comedians in America and a frequent guest on The Ed Sullivan Show. During one live appearance, everything seemed to be going smoothly until the show suddenly had to be shortened because of a speech from President Lyndon Johnson. From offstage, Ed Sullivan began signaling to Mason that he only had a couple of minutes left. Trying to work the situation into his routine, Mason gestured back towards Sullivan while continuing his act. That's when everything went wrong. From Sullivan's viewpoint, the gesture looked suspiciously like an obscene insult. Sullivan was furious and immediately banned Mason from the show, canceling several future appearances. The fallout was devastating. Television opportunities dried up, Mason's career suffered, and the comedian even filed a lawsuit after being publicly accused of insulting the legendary host. But years later, Sullivan finally realized he had made a mistake. The gesture had been misunderstood all along. The ban was lifted. Mason returned to the show, and Sullivan publicly apologized. Looking back, it's almost unbelievable that a decades-long controversy started because two people saw the exact same hand movement in completely different ways. In Hollywood, timing is everything, but apparently so is camera angle. Number 15, Kelsey Grammer. Most celebrity interviews end with a handshake, a smile, and maybe a plug for an upcoming project. Kelsey Grammer's interview with Piers Morgan ended before it even started, and it all came down to one photo. In 2012, Grammer agreed to appear on Piers Morgan Tonight, with one very clear request: don't bring up or show images of his ex-wife, Camille Grammer. Considering the actor had gone through a highly public and bitter divorce, it seemed like a simple condition. Everything appeared fine until Grammer sat down and watched the opening segment. That's when he saw something he specifically asked not to see: a photo of Camille displayed on screen. What happened next shocked everyone in the studio. Before the interview could even begin, Grammer stood up and walked out. Just like that, the segment was over. Piers Morgan later expressed disbelief, saying he hadn't even planned to discuss the actor's ex-wife during the interview. Grammer's team fired back, arguing that the production should have respected the agreement from the start. The public disagreement quickly escalated, and Morgan eventually announced that Grammer was no longer welcome on the show. Looking back, the entire incident feels almost surreal. In a television world filled with shouting matches and on-air meltdowns, this feud started because of a single image that flashed on screen for just a few seconds. Sometimes that's all it takes to turn an interview into a disaster. Number 16, Joan Rivers. Some talk show feuds last a few weeks. This one lasted a lifetime. For years, Joan Rivers and Johnny Carson were one of television's most beloved duos. Carson helped launch Rivers' career, invited her onto The Tonight Show nearly 100 times, and even trusted her to fill in as guest host. To many viewers, they seemed inseparable. That's why what happened next shocked Hollywood. By the mid-1980s, Rivers felt her future at NBC was uncertain. Despite years of loyalty, she wasn't being seriously considered as Carson's successor. Then came an offer she couldn't ignore. Fox wanted her to host her own late-night show. Rivers accepted, believing it was the opportunity of a lifetime. But when news of the deal reached Carson, everything changed. Rivers later claimed she tried to call him personally before the announcement became public. Carson insisted that call never happened. Either way, the damage was done. The fallout was brutal. Rivers was effectively banned from The Tonight Show, and many celebrities reportedly avoided her new program out of fear of upsetting Carson. What had once been one of television's strongest friendships turned into one of its most heartbreaking feuds. Even more surprising, the two never truly reconciled. They never spoke again before Carson's passing in 2005. Looking back, it's a reminder that in Hollywood, success can open doors, but sometimes it can also close the most important one.